maintain a healthy fund balance. Approximately $200,000 is set aside for emergencies and $300,000 is set aside for capital projects. While some may question why we have such a healthy fund balance, our auditors actually recommend a higher fund balance equaling 2 months of operating expenses, but we believe this is just the right size for us. In the fiscal year 24 budget process, you'll also notice it described in depth that the budgeting process this year was really grassroots. The school committee wanted to include the staff. And so as a result, our initial presentation to the school committee, the staff's presentation, was a 7.1 increase. However, through many, many meetings, the school committee was able to bring that down to a request for 4%. And to continue on, the final budgeting process will be when the school receives the final budget tonight. And the administration is already working on finding cost savings through looking at updated numbers in our insurance costs and other areas. So we're getting there. We'll be very close, I believe, to the number that the town council is recommending. And then on pages 4, 5, 6, you'll see the fiscal year 24 budget. And on 7, 8, 9, you'll see a financial report for the current year as of March 31st. So if anyone has any questions, that's a summary of the document that we provide. We want to give you the most up-to-date financial information we could. Any questions or?
Are there any other questions? All those in favor of accepting the superintendent's report? Opposed? Motion carries. To receive and act upon the medical center report by Block Island Health Services for the calendar year 2022. Is there anyone here from the medical center that wishes to speak? Good evening, Tom Walker from the Medical Center. Thank you for considering the grants this year. The Medical Center actually over the last 2 years has seen its most volume ever. It's over 7,500 total patients through the Medical Center this past 2 years. We've grown the primary care base. We've been able to track a lot of our data when it came to EMS after hours requirements, and been able to adjust our kind of infrastructure to accommodate. The most exciting part this year is the fact that we became a federal rural health center as of a month ago. Gives us access to federal grants that will really be important for us in the future for financial stability, but also to secure likely a third provider to increase primary care and urgent care, emergent care at the same time for the community. We've been able to secure a state rural grant that will allow us to practice a third provider this summer. Each weekend of the summer, we'll have a third provider for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which will allow us to, I think, not only take care of continued primary care needs in the island community, but also for the urgent and emergent needs of the community. So, and we have our upcoming building for our students and residents that we'll need for the future, as well as a future building expansion from a private capital campaign. So we look forward to that expansion over the next 24 months. Happy to take any questions. Are there any questions or comments? A motion would be in order to receive and to accept medical center report by Block Island Health Services for Block Island.
Second.
Excuse me?
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. To receive and act upon the Block Island Housing Board report for the fiscal year 2023. Is there someone here from the Block Island Housing Board?
Good evening, everyone. You'll find our annual report on page 96 and 97 of your package. I won't reiterate everything that is in the report, but the thing to underscore first is our great thanks for the support of the town council, Marianne Crawford, Allison Ring, so many people that have helped this year and helped us as we have applied for a grant from Rhode Island Housing to support our project that is pending. We hope to build 16 rental units on West Side Road on the parcel that's abutting the cemetery. And our hope is that we will hear affirmatively from the state sometime this month. So that's our big goal. We're kind of in a holding pattern until we hear definitively from the state, but much thanks to all that have been helping us in this goal. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments? A motion would be in order to accept the report of the Block Island Housing Board. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. To receive and act upon the Block Island Land Trust report for the fiscal year 2023. Is there anyone here from the Block Island Land Trust? Any questions? A motion would be in order to accept Block Island Land Trust report for fiscal year 2023. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. To receive and act upon the annual operating and capital budget approved by the town council and presented by the town manager for fiscal year 2024.
Well, hello. Welcome to the Financial Town Meeting. As I've always said in all my career as a public servant, that I think the Financial Town Meeting is the one opportunity for your vote to be heard. It's very seldomly you see a room full of folks here willing to chat and discuss the budget and vote on the budget. Local government is where you can have an impact and you can see your funds spent to provide the service much needed in this community or any other community. The fiscal 24 budget continues to provide positive changes that we began in the budget of fiscal 2023. In 2023, we had budgeted a couple of the new additional positions, and they were fully funded this year. One was for a young librarian, adult service librarian, which was funded. The second one was for human service directors, and I'm sure a lot of you in this room have already met Kim. She started about 3 weeks ago, and she has hit the ground running and will be working very hard to provide a lot of the social services that we need to address here in the community. This year's proposed operating budget is $17,952,243. It's a 4% increase from last year, or an increase of $804,812. The tax levy is at 4%, which is the maximum we can pay at as required by Rhode Island general laws. We cannot increase it any more than 4% without getting authorization from the state. We are just at that 4%. We did not seek authorization to exceed that 4% increase. This year, you'll see a lot of construction projects that will be getting underway in the coming year. Hopefully, as Cindy just said, hopefully we'll have some funding for affordable housing. That project has been long in planning. We also hope that we will see a approval for the Thomas property. Also, Superintendent Girardi did touch on the $10.4 million that was approved last year that were in the throes of the renovation, the much needed work on the school. The medical center, through much generosity and fundraising of many of you in here, will be taking on a major renovation and housing. And also, thanks to working with our local Rhode Island Department of Transportation, there's a possibility that in about 6 months, the Rhode Island Department of Transportation will begin a $20 million improvement to the roads, safety, drainage on the island. At this time, I would like to thank all the department heads who worked very close as a management team to present this budget, as well as all those in the community service who also worked very hard to present this budget for you this evening. As always, I cannot finalize a budget or get through the whole budgeting process without someone to my left hand here, Amy Lands, who, as I said, keeps me in check when I get to the point where I'm ready to throw my hands up. But this budget, I think, like all budgets, will definitely move forward and provide the necessary service that this town is so used to doing. I thank you very much for all coming out and taking the time this evening to spend with us together as we go through this budget process.
A motion would be in order to approve the administration budget of $1,754,122. All those in favor? Excuse me? Amy's going to speak now.
Just to give everyone a minute to catch up and know where we are. So we're going to start with the administration expenditures budget, which begins on pages 15 at 16 of 99. And that'll be the first of the expenditure departments in the operating and capital budget. So we'll go line by line. The administration budget with a total of $1,754,122 supports some of the new staff positions that Mary Ann described. For those who might prefer a narrative look at the budget, that's also in your packets. You'll find that beginning on page 34 of 99 with administration on page 38. So there are a couple different ways to follow along depending on what you're comfortable with. The administration budget also supports some additional resources towards the consultant personnel area in terms of developing more human resources, needs assessments, and strengthening that foundation within the town, as well as additional funding for some of our legal lines and contingency. Are there any questions that I can answer on the administration department?
Please come up to the microphone.
Jim Hinthorn, this should be an easy one. In lieu of staffing and filling that human resources position, could you sort of expand on what you are going to spend money on? Because it's not the person, it's not the position, correct?
That's Yeah, that's correct, Jim. It's not the person. What we've decided to do is provide funding for a consultant who would come in and take an audit, take a look at our our personnel records and provide some procedures going forward as to what we may be able to implement and also determine how best to proceed as that relates to staffing of that particular area in town hall.
Are there any other questions? Please come to the microphone.
My name is Kristen Bauman. I had a question about the lobbyist position. I see that it's an increase in 20,000, and I wondered if there was something you could lay out for us, if that was more work to be done or just a salary increase. Thank you.
A slight increase in the monthly service, and also it was for 12 months. Previous years, it wasn't for 12 months.
Are there any other questions? A motion would be in order to approve the administration budget. Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. A motion would be in order to approve $467,431 in finance for fiscal year 2024. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. A motion would be in order to approve the sum of $351,348 for central dispatch fiscal year 2024.
Sorry, Central Dispatch, we're on page 18 of 99. You can see it's not a material increase. Most of those are driven by electricity and fuel oil, with a slight shift in the wages and benefits line in terms of staffing. But I'm happy to take any questions that anyone may have on dispatch.
Are there any questions? A motion would be in order to approve. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. A motion would be in order to approve the sum of $1,391,057 for the police fiscal year 2024. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Motion would be in order to approve the sum of $1,411,860 for Public Works. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. A motion would be in order to approve the sum of $746,460 $427 for the harbors for fiscal year 2024. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Please come up to the microphone.
Hi, Kathleen Mello. So I just have a quick question, and correct me if I'm wrong, but at the previous budget meeting, it was stated that the FYI recommended wages for the harbor master were a typo, where it stated she's making $1,648 less for next year. So just wondering if that could be corrected, and if it was corrected.
I'm happy to take that. The number for fiscal year 24 is correct. It's the 23 that was incorrect, which we can't amend, but we are paying her correctly and appropriately, despite the 23 budget being wrong.
So she was paid less than what's stated here.
She is being paid the correct amount, which is more than is currently shown for fiscal year 23.
Okay. And then for so the FY for 24 is correct?
Is correct, the 63,111.
So this is not correct.
We can't go back and correct
Last year.
the 23 budget number, but we can and do pay her correctly for 23, even though it was budgeted incorrectly.
Okay. So the typo wasn't for this budget, it was in last
Year's budget. Completely my mistake.
I'm going to call the harbor special again. The motion would be in order to approve $746,427 for the Harbors Department. Second. All those in favor? Mr. Leader, please come up to the microphone.
Fred Leader, taxpayer Beacon Hill. I'm rising to a point of order in that the chair is not calling for discussion. After motion second, we should not be proceeding immediately to a vote. Discussion and questions should be called for after each item. Thank you.
The point is taken. That's my fault. Yes, please come up to the microphone.
Chris Warfel, I would like to reinforce what Fred Leader said. There has been no opportunity given to us to discuss the budget particulars. I had a question on the dune maintenance and we went right past it. So I know you can't undo this, but please going forward, ask for discussion on these budget items. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, that's what it's saying.
Mr. Warfel, if you want to ask a question for information, go ahead. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. over many years, actually with the support of IRA, we had done a beach erosion control method using jute fencing. And we've pretty much proven its effectiveness and what would happen, what does happen when it's not used. I walk, I'll call Town Beach nearly every day, and I've seen how much erosion is occurring. And the simple method of controlling erosion through this jute fencing, which is biodegradable, doesn't leave wires, doesn't leave wooden slats. I presented to the town council quite a few times and really have not had any response. And then an item, I think 700 in the budget, there was something about dune maintenance, right? Dune maintenance, and I think it's only like $1,000. And for very low cost money, we could be protecting our beaches through this method. And again, it's been proven, shown to the town council. I would like to see more money put towards that, because if you take a look at the erosion of where the line is of rope, where the dunes used to be and where the dunes are now, the receding of the dunes is incredible. And it would be so easy and low cost to stop that. You have Sea Level Rise Committee, which is also aware of this. And I just would like the town to make sure they put money towards this method. And that's what I was going to ask about. Thank you.
A motion would be in order to approve the sum of $235,400 for the building official's office. Any discussion or questions before we proceed to a vote? Mr. Michelle? Thank you. Can you please explain $108,000 for the building official?
Sure. That line that you're referring to, line 5403 for consultant building official, represents the contracted services that the town has with Four Leaf to perform the building officials inspection services. So that's an engagement through a consultant rather than a staff building official, as the town has had in the past.
We have a building official who's here most of the day on Wednesdays commuting. I understand he does office work on Fridays, and all permits are handled over the internet. Is that the extent of the time we're getting?
He's here on an as-need basis. Right now, he's here every single Wednesday. There was a time when we had staff here on Monday and Wednesday, but the number of permits had dropped, so he wasn't here. About 2 years ago, we implemented what is OpenGov, which is what a lot of communities are using for building permits, where a lot of the work can be done offsite in the office.
I understand that. So we're getting him to work for us specifically for 2 days for $108,000 a year. Mr. Warfel?
I also noticed what Doug Michelle noticed, and this job was originally posted, I think, at $16 an hour. And obviously you didn't get, from what I heard, I actually did have an applicant. However, this job has really morphed into a very expensive position the way it's being administrated. And I would ask the town council to go back and advertise for this job, for the number of hours worked and how the billing is working. This is a very high price to be paying for those services. Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Will you please have a hand vote? All those in favor? Forty-six in favor. All those opposed?
May I suggest, James Callahan, Town Solicitor, excuse me. May I suggest an amendment to remove the building official aspect of this budget item so that the overall building department budget item may move forward?
Moderator, your order, you can take a vote. Vote to be called, it has to be done here. And when it's called to the vote, it has to be completed before you go, you know.
The vote was 46 to approve, 111 to reject. The motion does not carry. At this point, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Request of the town manager, and finance director. Mr. Warfel?
I would like to make a motion to reconsider the building official budget.
The finance director is going to explain.
Sure, just a little procedural component here, and James may jump in if I'm going sideways, but effectively the motion that we took and voted on earlier eliminates entirely the building department of the town of New Shoreham, which creates some legal issues and also may not have been the intention of the room. It may have been. If the intention was to focus more narrowly on the building official consultant line, then we should do that in a more narrow way. But essentially, what we have on the floor now is absolutely no building department for any of its functions. So the motion to reconsider brings that conversation back onto the floor so that if there are things within the building department that we want to adjust or amend, there's an opportunity to do that. If the intention is in fact to keep the vote that currently stands, then we'd be moving forward without a building department. So I appreciate Mr. Warple's willingness to allow us this opportunity to talk about that and make sure that what we're doing today reflects the actions that we really intend them to.
Mr. Warfel? I'd like to call for a second on that motion. Our discussion. Mr. Warfel? Going to take the vote to reconsider the motion. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion to reconsider carries. Mr. Warfel?
I would like to put a motion on the floor to amend the building official budget for the consultant position to be reduced by $30,000.
There's a motion on the floor. There's a second. Any other questions or discussion? Mr. Michelle?
I want to apologize to the assembly. The shutting down of the town department was certainly not my intention. My intention was that for $108,000, we should have more hours of a building inspector on this island. The man who comes out here is excellent. He knows what he's doing. I like him. I get along with him. But to only have access on a Wednesday, and even that's short because of the boat, and you come in and he's so busy because he's got to come in here, he's got to do gosh knows how many inspections, and he's trying to issue permits while he's here. It's just too much to do in one day while he's here. And we have no access to him Friday. So I'm looking for more access. You know, you have a building official, you should be able to go in and discuss your permits with him. You should have time on your job to discuss, this is what I'm doing. What should I do here? And there's no time for that. I mean, he's the official. He knows more than a lot of us. So that was my point. So I apologize. I didn't mean for that to be the result. It was certainly not a complaint about the person who comes out here, but I think we should have more time on the island by the person we're hiring.
There's a motion on the floor. Mr. Weber?
I don't need to look at everybody. Um, First of all, I agree 100% with what Doug said. I think he's spot on. Instead of paying this as a salaried position, I would just kind of maybe think that we should pay an hourly rate. If you do the math on, the time that Chuck spends on the island, and again, he's incredible at what he does. He's very knowledgeable, but he's getting paid just under $400 an hour, and that's at the $30,000 decrease. If you go the other way with it, it's north of 500 time spent on the island. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, come to the microphone, please. Mrs. Corey.
Hi, I'm Donna Corey, and as most of you know, I'm a tax accountant. I've been accountant for almost 60 years. And I think that the one thing I wanted to point out is the bottom line is not that, you're shifting money around to different spots, but the bottom line is not, if anything, it's down from 257 to 231. So you're shifting things around maybe for more efficiency. I don't know. That's not my expertise. The money is my expertise. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Leader?
Fred Leader, Beacon Hill. Question, is it possible to switch things around so that we get more, our consultant can put in more hours for the building official? And just maybe another day a week at I'm just going by the number, $400 an hour, even if it's that rate, just make it easier for these guys to get in there.
He can come out more hours a week. Some of the time he is working off-site because everything's automated. We have a contract with them. It's an hourly rate contract based on us going out to bid some time ago. We did go out to bid some time ago, a couple of years ago, after spending about 6 months advertising for a building official, and we didn't get any applicants.
My question is there's some way to accommodate these builders who, from what we've heard,
Sure, we can increase the hours of him coming out here. But
can we pay him less than $400 an hour? I don't think the president gets paid that.
No, he's contracted. It's a contract we went out to bid. We can go out to bid again and see if we get any other bids. We can explore that.
Okay,
That's what I would rather do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Ms. Payne, you have to come up.
Can't walk. I told my husband that he applied to be a consultant and no one answered. He's really, and he applied and no one answered his application. Isn't that easy? We have to have $400 an hour for a man that put in 35 years of his life in this town and is an A+ student and the most knowledgeable in the state of Rhode Island. Have been told that by. So we gotta reconsider this. Thank you. No one answered his letter.
Are there any other comments or questions? There's a motion on the floor to reduce the amount by $30,000, which would bring the amount down to $205,400.
I don't have the contract in front of me. So if it's $108,000, if you take the hourly rate of $125, it comes to about 564 hours, I think. It equals 864 hours. You take the 864 hours and divide that by 52 weeks. It comes to 16.6 hours a week, which is pretty much what he's doing. He does take the boat over. He's here for the day, and then he does do some work from his office on the mainland.
All I wanted to be sure is everybody understood the hourly rate that was stated by the town manager. The town manager just said the hourly rate was $125. Is that correct?
We have confirmed that that is correct.
Thank you.
Did everyone hear that amount?
Not 400.
Not $400 an hour. Town manager says it's $125 an hour. That would be the hourly rate. Mr. Weber.
Charlie Weber again. So I've watched Chuck get on and off the boat. I've seen him come over on a 9 o'clock boat and go back off on a 2 o'clock boat. I have nothing against this guy whatsoever. Like I said, I think he does a phenomenal job. Are we paying him $125 an hour? And then his service, like because he's farmed out? Is there more involved in that?
So the company that we hired is Four Leaf. He is hired by Four Leaf and we pay Four Leaf. What they provide us with is different levels of inspectors. The big difference that was with Mark Tilson, he was grandfathered and therefore he could do the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, as well as building. Now under state law, they're all separate licenses and you need to qualify for all separate licenses. So that's why we had, I think that was the main reason why we couldn't get anyone to apply for the job, because we needed a building official, we needed plumbing inspector, mechanical, electrical. It no longer can be handled by one person. So at times, Chuck, does he have the licenses too? Well, does he have all of them? So Chuck has all the licenses, so he can do all the work on the island, which is very beneficial to the town because we could not get anyone after 6 months of advertising for the position.
Okay, so as a builder, we need him here about 30 hours a week and not the 4 or 5 that he's here all winter long per week. And that's honestly what he's been here. Again, it's nothing personal with him. And that's how I derived my number, was dividing what we're paying him by 5 hours a week. Not paying him, paying Four Leaf. I'm sure he's getting paid a lot less. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Lacoste.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ken Lacoste, Black Island High Street. As everyone knows, I'm not in the building industry, I'm in the marine industry. But I just like to know what this vote at the moment that we're seeking to undertake, reducing this budget line item by $30,000. How will that affect the building industry? What in the immediate and also in the long term. What are you going to have to do? And more importantly, what's it going to mean to the guys who are trying to make a living out here doing building and doing the work that they're doing? And they need this inspector to get approved. So I'd like to know if there's a short answer to that. How is this going to affect the building industry? Thank you.
If we're reducing the budget, I'm not sure how we can get the building official here for more hours. If we look at what we had last year we spent about $99,000. So we increased it slightly for 108. If we move forward with reducing this budget, I'm not sure how, if I'm hearing from the folks you want them out here more and you think there's a need, we can ask them for that, but by reducing the budget, it's not going to get us. So we'll have to see. I can try going out for bid again. I'm not encouraged by it. I would not be encouraged by the amounts that will come forward because this was done a couple of years ago. I can tell you the building official inspector across the state, there's a number of communities and municipalities that have gone to a private contractor. You know, at $125 an hour, there's no health benefits, there's no retirement, there's the workers' comp, there's a lot of stuff we won't be paying for that. So if that's the question you're asking, Ken, what's the short term? We'll have to see what we can do. If we want to get him out here, maybe we can try negotiating a less hourly rate, or we can try going out to bid again.
So Marianne, I think the ask is more time. Could his admin day be on the island versus at home? Then they would at least be able to go into the office, meet with them, take advantage of him physically being here.
We can do that.
Mr. Warfel?
In my request to amend the motion, I thought I was limited to dollars, not a discussion on personnel and time because of the way the budget financial time meeting is structured. I am very empathetic because I have been in the same boat where projects I need to have inspected, take longer than I wish. It would be great if we can make the process more efficient, and if the person is paid for not for their commuting time, if they're paid actually for the time that they're on the island, and that you renegotiate this contract so we do get more hours. I totally am, again, empathetic with the construction industry. I just thought I was limited to working with numbers for the amendment. So if there's another solution that satisfies the contractors out here in the building industry, I'm all for it.
Thank you.
Here, or here. Okay. Oh, sorry.
First Warden, Mr. Stover.
So it seems to me from the good points that Doug and Charlie are making, that one of the essential requirements is face time. I've actually, and I think a lot of us have felt like maybe we're not buying enough hours. So my solution was actually to spend more on it, just to show you what a genius I am. But I wonder if Neil's point is a good sort of stepping stone to figuring this thing out, which is Chuck, the 4-leaf person is here in person 2 days a week. But we, in my opinion, have to have a commitment to figure out over the next fiscal year what this thing is going to look like. Because it seems pretty clear to me that there's a lot of frustration over the way it's working right now. But my worry is if we reduce this to say $78,000, the unintended consequence is that we'll actually have fewer hours and less face time. So it seems like it would make sense now that this has been raised as what is clearly not just an issue with the construction industry, but generally with the community at a meeting like this. My own opinion is we should keep the budget as it is, have Chuck here in person 2 days a week, and over this fiscal year, develop a plan, whether it's with Four Leaf, with another firm, or with an inspector who holds all the licenses, which I think appears to be unavailable, basically. Part of the reason that Four Leaf has been so successful is that you can't find these people that have all of the licenses that are necessary in order to be one person doing these inspections. But that would be my suggestion. And I guess if that were the pleasure of the community, it would require us to do a broad reconsideration, pass the budget, and have a commitment to work on a solution over the next several months. I worry about not having a person, but purchasing fewer hours, basically.
Mr. Reeson?
So just for math point of view, at $125 an hour, we're at that salary level that's on the budget, that's somewhere between 16 hours to 18 hours a week. Just pure math, depending on whether it's 48 or 52 weeks. So to Keith's point, that would be, 2 days at least, including boat, etc., if one were to go that direction.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Tunney?
Hi, Arlene Tunney. I'm not a builder. I'm just a lowly architect. And I know that since this building official has been here, I've only seen him once and he hadn't had time to talk to me. This is the only venue that I've ever worked in where I can't talk to the building official about a project. That's number one. Number two, I get feedback from builders that it's Wild West out here. You can do whatever you want. And I think that's true. And the important thing is that if it's Wild West out here and all the building that's going on, who's going to be eventually liable for the building failures that we're going to have? Because we don't have a sufficient building official to oversee what's being built.
Thank you. Mr. Michelle?
I certainly had no intention of stirring up a hornet's nest. But we cannot have less time from a building inspector or building official that we have now. So if this cuts the amount of time we have for access to a building official, whether it's issuing permits or doing inspections, we can't afford it. We could probably use more. I have no problem with funding the full $108,000. However, I would like the council to look at how it's being used. Are we paying for travel time? How many hours do we actually have access to this person on the island? As I say, I think he does an excellent job when he's here, but I just don't think there's enough. So I have no problem with funding it for $108,000. And I ask the council to look into this seriously over the winter and see if anything comes different for next year. But I don't think we can afford less building inspector than what we have now. So.
Thank you. Mr. Stover?
Doug, you certainly up my commitment to that, and I think everybody on the council agrees with that. I think this was a incredibly helpful conversation. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Wharf, would you like to amend your motion? Rather amend your amendment? Mr. Wharf?
Sorry about that. Yes, I would like to withdraw my motion with the caveat that we do understand how much of that compensation goes into, I'll say, unproductive services to the building community, such as being travel and all that. It really should not be charged to us. And if the council of Home Energy agrees to pursue that, I have no problem doing that.
Well, yeah, going into the motion to read the motion to consider how the withdraw.
I would like to amend my motion to reconsider the building officials. Budget. To reflect the budget. Let's see.
Try this again. Motion is in order. Approve the sum of $235,400 for fiscal year 2024. Second. Second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Motion would be in order to approve the sum of $434,215 for the Recreation Department for fiscal year 2024. Any discussion or question? Motion is approved. Can I hear a second? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carried. Motion would be in order to approve the sum of $631,323 for the library for fiscal year 2024. Questions or discussion? The comment?
I'm Kristen Bauman. I'm the director of the Adams Free Library. My staff and I are very proud to work for you all, and we hope you are pleased with our progress and what we do in this town. I'm here not to praise them, although I didn't get a chance to do that, but to say my salary is also screwy on paper. And I think Amy will do that for you. I asked her during the budget process, so I know she can do it for you. But I would like it to be known that my salary increase every year reflects what the union employees get. I never ask for more, and it looks like that this year, but that's not the case. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Kristen's referring to the top line there, 5101, which shows a year-over-year change of 8.2%. In reality, that's because the budget for fiscal year 23 was understated and therefore doesn't reflect the full amount that the library director was paid for fiscal year 23, making that incremental jump seem larger than it is now.
Any other questions? A second for the motion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. Motion would be in order to approve the sum of $323,000 for GIS/technology for the fiscal year 2024. Any discussion or questions? Move. Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. A motion would be in order to approve the sum of $231,607 for boards and commissions for fiscal year 2024. Questions or discussion? Moved. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. A motion would be in order to approve the sum of $897,785 for community support. Questions or discussion? Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. A motion would be in order to approve the sum of $5,540,395 for school support for fiscal year 2024. Questions or discussion? Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. The motion would be in order to approve the sum of $370,000 capital tax for fiscal year 2024. Questions or discussion? Is there a second? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. A motion would be in order to approve the sum of $3,166,271 for debt service for fiscal year 2024. Questions or discussion? Any question? For a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. A motion would be in order to approve the sum of $17,952,243 total expenditure for fiscal year 2024. Questions or discussion? Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. A motion would be in order to authorize the town treasurer of said town pursuant to RIGL Chapter 45-12-2 with the consent and approval of the town council to issue and refund from time to time bonds, notes, or other evidences of indebtedness in an amount not to exceed $1 million to finance planning, design, construction, development, renovation, furnishing, and finishing of a rental housing program on Plat 8, Lot 218, the Thomas property. The terms and conditions of such bonds, notes, or other evidences of indebtedness could be set by resolution of the town council or by the town treasurer and the first warden in the absence of such resolution. Questions or discussion?
So just to remind folks of of this particular project, back in 2018 at the financial town meeting, the town approved, the voters approved $1 million for the construction of the town manager's house and the renovation of the Thomas house that is currently on that site. Since that time, we revisit this and it was considered just those two particular projects. The Thomas project of the town manager's house is constructed and I've been living in there for about 3 years. The next phase, we originally thought we'd break it down in 3 phases and just do the current house and then do a third home later. And working with consultants and folks on this project, they thought it'd be in the best interest that we do the both houses at the same time to get the economies of scale. So we have about $800,000 left over from funds of the 1.5 that was approved by the voters on 2018. This remaining $1 million will allow us to complete both projects, which the current home, Thomas House, that would be demolished and a new house built would have 2 units with 2 bedrooms. The other house, which would be built in the northwest corner, also would have 2 units. 1 unit would be a 2-bedroom. The other unit would be a 1-bedroom. At this point, we have received favorable advisory from both the planning board and the Conservation Commission. We are slated to be before the zoning board this month in May. I think it's May 24th. So that's what's before you to the voters, is to complete the project that was started back in 2018.
Any questions? Shower.
This is Rob. It says here that it'll be first offered to the town of New Sharon Police Department and then followed by town employees. And I was just wondering if there was a system, if the police department does not need one of the apartments, is there an order in which it would be offered to the town employees, or is it a lottery system? Is it offered to teachers and then to medical center? I'm just wondering if there's a system for how that would work.
The order that was signed some time ago, back in, I think, 2011. No, not that. The consent order that was signed states that the units will be rented first offered to town police officers, second to town employees, including school department. Then it goes on to say, in the event that there is no town or school department employees willing or able to rent, the units will be made available to anyone who's coming living in the town. Specifically as to how we go about identifying those folks, that will take place as we move forward with this project.
Any other questions? O'Neill?
Okay, I just wanted to, have the town manager clarify, at our last meeting, Bill McComb asked a question about in 2019, the voters voted in $1.5 million to build a home for the town manager and to renovate the Thomas House. And my understanding from that meeting was that some of that money still exists to renovate the Thomas House. And I'm just wondering if they could clarify that for the voters.
What I stated, and maybe I wasn't clear, there's $800,000 left over from the $1.5 million. And then that will be used for the construction for both these homes. And the additional, we think will be an additional $1 million we need to complete the project. So total of 1.8 million is the 2 homes.
Mr. McCollum?
Is this on? Okay, could you just explain to everyone that they do have information in the packet on this that I believe Tom prepared? Tom Reesum? Well, anyway, you draw these people. Thank you. Page 49, 50, 50, 51 have proposed layouts of both of these buildings that should help people. Their visual aids, I think, are very good. Thank you, Tom. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah,
Bill McComb. Following up what Molly said at the council meeting, my question was, we had, that was correct, we had appropriated, I believe, $1.5 million to do the Thomas House and the town manager's house. My question was, if the $1 million, the additional $1 million that's being asked, if that should that fail or not pass, is there enough remaining money from the original project to complete the Thomas House, the 2 apartments? And I think, thank you.
So that question is yes. But based on the economy of scales and recommendation of working with our designer, we're going to make that a true 513 with 5 living spaces there. They recommend that we do the next 2 projects simultaneously.
Thank you. Any other questions? Motion, does it have a second? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. To authorize the town treasurer of said town pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Chapter 45-12-2, with the consent and approval of the town council, to issue and refund from time to time bonds, notes, or other evidences of indebtedness in an amount not to exceed $2,100,000 to finance the purchase of Assessor's Plat 6, Lot 3-3. The terms and conditions of such bonds, notes, or other evidences of indebtedness to be set by resolution of the town council or by the town treasurer and the first warden in the absence of such resolution. Questions or comments? Mr. Leader.
Again, sorry.
There is a motion. Has it been seconded?
Yeah. Where is this? I don't know. Much about it.
Can I just, Fred, I'll describe the project.
Thank you.
Thank you. So stay here in case you have questions, Fred. Yeah. Make yourself at home.
Thanks. I like it.
Before I describe this, I feel like we don't, in these meetings, get an opportunity to say thank you. And I have to say, Chris, I really appreciate the fact that we stepped up to the plate to do this. It is not an easy gig. It requires a lot of preparation, and you know, in my experience over the years, it's, as we've seen tonight, it's often something you may not even anticipate ends up being the controversial thing. So you and Ryan, I think, you really deserve a lot of thanks from us for running this. This is the Old Island Pub property, which has had, I have to say, an unfortunately tight timeline. But I just want to sort of walk you through it from so, you know, essentially, why is this before us? I put a timeline in the paper. It was roughly correct. Relatively recently, we were approached about the fact that the Old Island Pub site was going to be sold. I'm a big fan of the Old Island Pub. I was certainly sad that it was going to change, but it was going to change and going to be actively marketed. And the person who reached out to us from the Gaffett family expressed a desire on the Gaffett family's part to offer it to the town for community infrastructure purposes, for lack of a better description. That could be housing, it could be a whole range of things. We had, I would say, 3.5 weeks to maybe not even that long to talk to the family. They, in my opinion, quite graciously agreed to keep the property from, I don't know what the right term is, be actively marketed or be subject to purchase and sale by some other potential buyer until after the financial town meeting. And look, we all know there are several needs that I think there's widespread agreement on in the community, right? There's housing, there's community infrastructure issues, et cetera. We all have our areas of interest and concern. And I think, you know, most people acknowledge that. And, you know, the question is the Old Island Pub potentially part of the answer to that? I happen to think it might be. But to me, it requires us as a community to engage together and use that property, should we purchase it, to address one or more of our needs. Unfortunately, and this is the struggle, this is highly time limited. So it's an opportunity that's before us that will not be here again. A property of that type with the access it has, et cetera. Because you know, it is not a situation where we can say, yeah, you know, let's look at this over the next 12 months because the owner of the property wants to sell. So it does, quite frankly, require something that we may not be comfortable giving, which is a bit of a leap of faith on an idea, on a piece of property that has the potential for a range of uses. And given that we do have needs and that we have a very quick turnaround, I think the council determined to put it before you. I just would hate to be in this position of having an opportunity that we let pass us by and didn't bring it to the voters and regret that. So here we are. It's $2.1 million. It is, I know it's been the focus of attention if my emails and texts and voicemails are any indication. And by the way, I think that's a really good thing because, you know, we're talking about what we might need and how we might be able to accomplish that. And regardless of the outcome of this, I think it's essential that we have those conversations and think about these community needs over the long haul. So thank you.
Hi, I'm back. Now, how do you get?
I can hear you. I got no mic. Here we go. Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm kind of shooting from the hip. This was voted on the 17th of April, I believe. I first heard of it as a rumor on the 19th, 2 days later, Wednesday, that was Friday. Good points, Keith, all, but we're rushing into this. We're talking about 2.1 million. How much is it gonna cost to renovate it? What are we gonna renovate it into? Is there a need for, we have money, but is there a need for what it gets renovated into? It's a lot of money and it's just coming up way too fast. And, you know, I agree, it's hard to let an opportunity like this go, but it's too quick. I feel like we're buying a pig in a poke and we should take our time with it. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening. Judith Gray, Sands Pond Road and Chair of the Block Island Sea Level Rise Committee. The Block Island Sea Level Rise Committee was tasked by the Town Council with the mission of determining the local impact of sea level rise on our community. With this in mind, we feel it's important to share with the community the following information about the Old Island Pub property prior to voters deciding whether to move forward with the purchase. According to Storm Tools, which is an online tool developed with the Rhode Island Coastal Resources Management Council and is available through the University of Rhode Island Coastal Resources Center, Storm Tools allows the public to easily visualize the impact of various sea level rise scenarios on properties. Using Storm Tools, we're able to see that the Old Island Pub building will not soon be inundated thanks to its position so high on the hill. I really encourage people to learn how to use Storm Tools. We are very concerned, for example, about the low-lying infrastructure around the property. All the infrastructure along Ocean Avenue will be impacted by sea level rise long before the Old Island Pub building would be. Also, in reality, impacts of sea level rise increase when storm surge and waves are added on top of these calm water scenarios. And so that's something else that we should always look at. The Block Island Sea Level Rise Committee will continue to encourage all Block Islanders to consider sea level rise in all of their activities. So you will be hearing from me again. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so Neil?
So first I want to say thank you to everybody who came here tonight, because in the last several years, we have not seen a crowd like this. So I really appreciate that everyone is here. I love Financial Town Meeting. I hope you all love Financial Town Meeting. This is where you get your vote, you get your say, and you can change the way that things are going. Just like we saw with the building official, we got to have a really good conversation. So I know this is really why you're all here. And I'd like to just put forward why the town council put this forward to you all. As Keith said, we thought this was an opportunity worth presenting, but it's not our vote, it's your vote. And so whether you like it or not, you vote the way that you want to vote, and that's democracy. But it's our job to put something that we think is a good opportunity forward for you. And I hope that you'll all stay for the next item, which is equally important, which is our water bond. But what I want to say is the reason why I voted to put this forward to you all is that I think it offers a lot of opportunities that you may or may not have thought of. Because I certainly, when this was first presented to us, I couldn't figure it out. Why were we even listening to this, right? So I think you have to back up a little bit and look at the space, right? We're talking about the building. We're not talking about the business. And it's a very nicely built, newly built building. It's accessible to everyone in town. It has a very nice, it's nicely sized to hold a fitness center, a recreation, or a community center room. The third floor has space for either a large apartment or possibly 2 very small apartments. And the back of the lot has space for a whole separate building to be built, obviously. In the meantime, that space could be a community garden, right? When you look at this from the air, like the aerial views that we looked at, the front yard would be a beautiful little spot for farmers market or an arts and crafts guild fair, or as an adjunct to another fair going on at the Historical Society. So I totally understand that we have had more time to think about this than you have. And even at that, we haven't had much time to think about this. So, you know, opportunities don't always come up at the right time. You know, if this doesn't go, I don't want you to think we're going to stop looking for community space. We're going to keep looking for community space. And I very much would like to keep looking for a space for a fitness center. I think that's a really important thing for our community. So, you know, I hope you all understand why we brought this forward to you, but it's really up to you. It's your vote.
Thank you. Oh.
I think some of you know this was a 4-1 vote to put this forward, and I was the one against it. Please, I didn't say that for that. I said that for clarity. And there are a multitude of reasons. First and foremost, and perhaps our finance director would be the better person to explain this. We have a lot of debt in this town. We have a lot of debt. We have $3 million out of a $17 million budget that you just voted on is debt. We have a $10 million issue for this school that has not been issued. We don't even know if that's going to cover what needs to be done in the school. We have, as Molly said, 3.1 coming up for water. We have housing projects in the works. We have to cross the street. The housing board is working on something down in the new harbor. We have a number of things in the capital plan which may or may not come to fruition. And it isn't just a matter of dollars, it's a matter of resources, a matter of getting things done. People dearly love to say things don't get done in town. They don't get done in town because everybody goes for the next bright and shiny object. We seem to have a collective inability to focus other than on what we want. And we've got to stop that. We've got to be a community that just looks at, and I hate to say global. I don't want to go there because that's pejorative. I'm sorry to say, I'm not very good at speaking sitting down. I think the C-RISE committee coming before this body very much exemplifies what's wrong with this process. That should have come up at a hearing. Now, C-RISE committee may say, they represent their body of the town. They shouldn't be here one way or the other unless they have a huge scientific objection came up with at the last meeting. That should have been vetted earlier. I didn't realize until later on, I don't know what's going on with the liquor license on this building, if it's being exhausted or not. That wasn't part of the I've seen nothing in writing. I'm on the council. I doubt I know more than anybody in this room about this project. I just think it's too much. It's too fast. It's everything that everyone has suggested is a great idea, but it's not really that much space. It is a new building. It's not a turnkey building. And Christopher Woodstover did recognize that it's going to cost a lot of money to do whatever town decides it's going to do with it. I think I better stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martin?
The problem that I have is it's a knee jerk. It's a thing that we might want. We might. The problem that I have is that we've got a lot of projects out there that we've given money to support this town. Whether it's the Flippy property, we've got to develop that into a harbor master building, maybe what have you. I just see the list of things that we have a dream. The dream's not coming true because we'll keep investing in a lot of different areas that it's a good dream, but we're not taking care of what we're actually looking for. This community, I think the voters have all said all along, they need some facilities. I mean, I was looking for when we bought that, maybe we would break ground, do something, make a road, do something. Don't let it sit there. If you want it to sit there, put it as open space. This property we're talking about is an established business. Let the people that want this business buy it. We don't need it. It's too close to town where I wouldn't want to do the fitness center. We've had 3 fitness centers on the side that failed. We could do that at home if that's our choosing. But I just don't see it. I don't see it for housing. I don't see it for a fitness center. I don't know. Maybe it would be a good place for arts and crafts, but I think we can do that in some little area we have. Sorry to be down on it. I'm against it.
Mr. Reese?
So I want to compliment Molly and Keith on the whole point of democracy. And I think this is one of the best meetings I've been to in a long time, of just getting different points of view out. Unlike Martha, who did vote no, I voted yes to have this presented on the warrant and have the discussion at the next town meeting. Why? Many of those topics have been discussed, right? The new building. I happen to think the proximity to the grocery store, to town is a very good thing. Expandable for housing. Keith mentioned that. It's 2 stories that are level, so you actually have ADA access on both sides. There are a lot of good things. But in the past 2 weeks, since the warrant came out and since the discussion, I have changed my focus. I'm very worried the town has a lot of projects. Some of them were just identified. I'm worried about the renovation cost for whatever that may be. So to me, it's not a 2.1 discussion. It's a something else discussion that's a little higher. And then Martha mentioned it, but the debt level is important, right? So we're only allowed up to a certain level of debt as a town, and we're getting closer and closer to that just by all of these projects. The most important thing is that we have a discussion on this. I think it's a very interesting project. I'm really happy that the council and the manager talked with the owners and that we have this dialogue and that we have the opportunity to entertain this. At this point, based on my thinking, I'm not necessarily in favor, but I'm glad we're having this democratic discussion. Thank you.
Ms. Lasser?
First of all, I want to say hats off to Renee. I want to say hats off to Renee and the Black Island Times and for identifying the issue because most of us had no idea this was going on. And I think it's important for local journalism. We're losing newspapers constantly in this country, and we're lucky to have a local paper. So good for you. I just wanted to reiterate what Dick said about the Overlook property. We have the Faulkner property. I just think we've got a lot going on that nothing's going on. So I can't be focused on those things. We had some great opportunities that went by. We've been talking about housing teachers and things. We had the Old Town Inn, which Amelia did a gorgeous, gorgeous job, but that would have been a spot. The Gothic just came and went, the Island Home. I just would like us to address
fix some of the things that we have that are still wrong, and I need to really talk about the lockers and the bathrooms in this town that we just haul thousands and thousands and thousands of people out, and our services are disgusting. I mean, they're just not. We've got to do better than that. And I think that's where, if we've got money, which I don't think we should be addressing this, spending, but it should go to things like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis?
Dave Lewis, Cunimus Road. So I'd just like to tell you the one thing that I worry about in terms of upcoming capital spending. In 2025, we have a notation there in the capital plan for a new fire rescue building. Public safety complex. I know that a huge chunk of that has been requested of Senator Reed to try to get an earmark for that. But it's not going to be for that whole chunk, but it's going to be a fair portion. But they're still going to leave us with an unknown number. Now, what we really do need is this public safety complex. We've invested heavily in our volunteer fire department in recent years, and they well deserve it. But they also need a building that they can operate out of safely and efficiently and effectively. And I think they've been asking for this for a long time, and we've got it in position. And the time will come in the next year or so to vote on that with the bonding issue. So I just wanted to call your attention to one of the things that worries me that I think is probably more important than the current warrant item. Additionally, I would just like to add that many people don't seem to know it, but in fact, there is a similar capital plan expenditure for the CMP Meadow project, which is coming down in 2026. But it's my understanding from sitting in many, many council meetings that that's a second priority for an earmark from Jack Reed's office in the federal government, if in fact he can pull all those strings. So I just wanted to share my concern and a piece of additional information. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. LaFaro?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I'll be brief. My concern is we have reached a point of saturation on spending. We have $26 million in bonds outstanding. We have 10 million committed for. That's 36 million. There's a $50 million limit for bonds for us. If everything gets approved tonight, it's an additional $6 million, which brings us to $42 million. You heard about the public safety building, that's earmarked for $12 million. That's $54 million. We're exceeding budget. We're exceeding what the state requires, even if the valuations come in. If we take this property, it goes off the tax rolls. Think about that. We haven't talked about the Harvest Department that was supposed to have a building put on the Overlook property with a town dock and space for the boats. That's got to be $5 or $6 million. We are looking at $60 million. I leave you with that thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fletcher?
Lynn Fletcher, Duntown Road. I have a couple of thoughts on this project. Housing, that area is loud. Most people would not really, I mean, I know housing is tight here. I lived at the Glen residence for a number of years. It is loud, and the Glen is on the hill above, on the corner of Chapel and Old Town Road. It's loud. We were talking to the Proctor property. We've done nothing with that. The Thomas property, it's taken forever. We bought the Overlook. I have a big question. If we bought this, would we sell something else, like sell the Faulkner or? And then parking. Parking is huge. You have a lot of ideas for that building. But is there going to be adequate parking for a farmer's market or, you know, community center or gym? So I think that those are things to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis?
Keith Lewis, West Side. I just want to thank the town council for responding so quickly on this issue, while also preparing the entire budget. They had a heavy workload, but rather than ignoring the issue and for sweeping it under the rug, they have given voters the opportunity to decide the issue. We hear so much about democracy, the preservation of democracy on a national scale. And to me, this is a wonderful example of it working properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? All those in favor? Let's do a hand vote, please. The motion is to authorize the town treasurer of said town pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Chapter 45-12-2, with the consent and approval of the town council, to issue and refund from time to time bonds, notes, or other evidence of indebtedness in an amount not to exceed $2,100,000 to finance the purchase of Assessor's Plat 6, Lot 3-3, described as the Old Island Pub. The terms and conditions of such bonds, notes, or other evidences of indebtedness to be set by resolution of the town council or by the town treasurer and the first warden in the absence of such resolution. Mr. Leader.
Sorry to be a pest, but Chris, could you clarify, because I'm hearing rumblings of what we're voting on, what a yes vote means and what a no vote means? Is it that if we approve, we spend the money? If we disapprove, we don't spend the money? Just to clarify, so everybody knows what we're voting on.
Approve would mean the voters approve the authorization, and reject would mean that the voters reject the authorization. All those who approve, please raise your hand. Please keep your hands raised high. Did you say 25? All those who reject the authorization, please raise your hands. Thank you. There are 25 votes to approve. There are 156 that do not approve. The motion does not carry. A motion would be in order to authorize the town treasurer of said town pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 45-12-2 with the consent and approval of the town council to issue and refund from time to time bonds, notes, or other evidence of indebtedness in an amount not to exceed $3,100,000 in order to finance capital improvements at the Block Island Water District. The terms and conditions of such bonds, notes, or other evidence of indebtedness to be set by a resolution of the town council or by the town treasurer and the first warden in the absence of such a resolution. Is there a second? Discussion? Any question? John Brunig, Water Company Superintendent, I think wants to explain.
Hello, I'm John Brunig. I'm the water company superintendent. I've had this job for I've been working at the water company for about 19 years. I've been in this position for about 11. I'm here presenting this bond question on behalf of the Board of Water Commissioners. The New Shoreham Water District's water demand has reached its available water capacity. The water district has not been able to fulfill requests for new water users over the last couple of years. During this time, the water district has been developing a plan to increase water capacity to serve community needs with safe and reliable drinking water and fire protection. This plan includes 3 different phases. Number 1, the development of the Schmidt Lot as a new well field. If you guys don't know what the Schmidt Lot is, it's a 6.8 acre property off of Payne Road. This was purchased by the Rhode Island Water Resources Board for about $1.3 million. And is leased to the water district for $1. This is at no cost to the town or the water ratepayers. The second part is increasing water treatment capacity by installing an additional reverse osmosis water treatment unit within the footprint of the existing treatment facility. Number 3 is the construction of a new 248,000 gallon water storage tank on the water company property. The total cost of all 3 of these projects is $5.6 million. The water district has worked very hard to obtain 45% grant funding through a USDA rural development program. The 45% grant reduces this by $2.5 million, leaving us with about $3.1 million. The question before you is to authorize the bond of $3.1 million. With the debt being borne by the water ratepayers. The water district has to come here, does not have their own bonding authority, so they have to come here to the voters in the town to gain that authority. The debt service cost will be recovered through water allocation purchases, water rates, and fees. There's one thing I'd like to point out, and this got brought up several times at the town council meeting when we went to get on the warrant. The Black Island Water Company's production wells are about 230 to 250 feet deep. In fact, the Schmidt wells will be even deeper if we go forward with this. That's about 120 feet below sea level. The water that is sourced from these production wells are deeper than your normal private residential well. The raw water is brackish, borderline potable, and very high in iron content. To make it safe for human consumption, we remove salt and iron by the reverse osmosis process. It has been proven through time, because we've been operating this facility for about 20 years and observed data, that the large amount of water drawn from these wells do not affect the upper freshwater aquifer that most people in this room depend on for their potable water. I believe there's more information on page 53 of your packet, and thank you for your consideration on this bond authorization.
Any questions or discussion? Mr. Starr?
John has probably already addressed this somewhere in this pamphlet. But if we're making, let's say, more water that flows downhill to the water treatment plant, does that have the capacity? Thank you. Thank you.
And that's a good question. You know, the waste stream from the reverse osmosis process does get processed through the sewage plant. But the answer is there, part of this is there's a lot of old failing, or soon, maybe over the next 10 to 15 years, failing wells, you know, that could potentially fail within the water district. The flows at the sewer plant are much larger already. So we're anticipating picking up a number of customers over the next decade that their wells are aging out. Essentially, this is commercial properties, but also there are private residential wells, and it's already, you know, that's already started to come to pass where these wells are about 50 years old. In your packet, there is a proposal for a new allocation process, which would create different buckets of allocation for different uses of water. And also, to answer your question, and this is, you know, I'm not the sewer superintendent, but there is still some capacity at the sewer plant. They're not at the same point that we are when it comes to capacity.
Are there any other questions?
I do have questions about the new projects that are coming forward. And we don't have enough water for the projects that we have. Nobody can get water in town for new projects. And now we want to put forward new projects. I just don't get it. Where's the water coming from? That's the question.
I'm not really sure if I understand the question, but
Projects for housing on the west side.
yes, that's it. Actually, public projects are a big reason or to accept this, because we need water to have those housing projects. And without, yes, that's correct. It's in the packet. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But that's a public projects are a large component. We're talking about all these things before this. And obviously the West Side Housing Project has been essentially waitlisted until this gets done so we can provide drinking water to that project.
And so,
project.
That's also, yes, those are also in the packet and included, yeah, yes,
Very good. Want to make that.
yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there a second for the motion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries.
No.
Motion would be in order to read and act upon the resolution pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 44-5-8 concerning levying of taxes.
So moved.
Resolved that the town treasurer is hereby authorized with the consent and approval of the town council by resolution to borrow my fault. Resolved that the electors of the town of New Shoreham qualified to vote upon any propositions to impose a tax or for the expenditures of money in town meeting legally assembled, that the assessment and collection of tax be made on the rateable real estate and tangible personal property of said town for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, in a sum of up to $12,482,463, said tax for expenses and charges and sinking funds for the payment of interest and indebtedness in whole or in part of said town and for other purposes authorized by law. The tax assessors shall assess and apportion said tax on the inhabitants and rateable property of said town as of the 31st day of December, AD 2022, midnight, according to law, and shall, on completion of said assessment, date and certify and sign their name and deliver to and deposit the same in the office of the town clerk on receipt of said assessment, shall forthwith make a copy of the same and deliver it to the town treasurer, who shall forthwith issue and affix said copy or warrant under her hand, directed to the collector of taxes of said town, commanding her to proceed and collect said tax of the persons and estates liable therefore. Said tax shall be due and payable on and between the 15th day of August, AD 2023, and the 31st day of August, AD 2023, and all taxes remaining unpaid on said last named day shall carry until collected a penalty at a rate up to 18% per annum upon such unpaid tax, and or said tax may be paid in quarterly installments The first installment of 25% honored before the 15th day of August, AD 2023. And the remaining installments as follows: 25% on the 15th day of November, AD 2023, and 25% on the 15th day of February, AD 2024, and 25% on the 15th day of May, AD 2024. If the first installment or any succeeding installment of taxes not paid by the end of the grace period established for each quarterly installment, said grace period end dates herein established as August 31st, 2023, November 30th, 2023, February 28th, 2024, and May 31st, 2024, respectively, they shall carry until collected a penalty at the rate of 18% per annum, including the grace period, provided, however, any property tax due in an amount not in excess of $100 shall be payable in full between the 15th day of August and the 31st day of August, 2023, and the quarterly installment provisions herein before permitted shall not apply. And be it further resolved that the collector of taxes shall collect and pay into the town's treasury as the same is collected, the tax this day ordered. This is a true copy of a resolution passed by voted the electors of the town of New Shore at the financial town meeting, May 1st, 2023. Wilson McGinnis, CMC, Town Clerk. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Ryan, Mr. Ryan Gary is going to take over.
Motion would be in order to be resolved that the town treasurer is hereby authorized with the consent and approval of the town council by resolution to borrow from time to time in anticipation of taxes such sum or sums of money as shall be necessary for the payment of the current liabilities and expenses of the town, and to issue negotiable promissory note or notes of the town therefore. The total amount of notes issued shall not exceed the limits prescribed by section 45-12-4 of the general laws as amended. Sums so borrowed during the current fiscal year, mentioned July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th, 2023, shall be borrowed in anticipation of taxes assessed as of December 31st, 2021, and sums so borrowed during the subsequent fiscal year, but prior to the next annual financial town meeting, shall be borrowed in anticipation of taxes assessed as of December 31st, 2022. The notes issued pursuant to this authority shall be signed by the town treasurer, countersigned by the first warden, town council. Such countersignature shall be conclusive evidence to all holders of such notes of the consent and approval of the town council to loan evidence thereby. All terms and conditions of such notes and the method of sale thereof not fixed herein or by provisions of law may be fixed by the town council. The town treasurer is hereby authorized, with the consent and approval of the town council, to renew such notes from time to time, but any such renewal note shall be due not later than 1 year from the date of the original notes so renewed. Do I have a second? Second. Is there any questions or comments? No? All right, well, a motion would be in order. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Oh, I don't know. All those not in favor? All right, the motion carries. Motion would be in order to authorize the town treasurer of said town with the consent and approval of the town council to place investments as deemed proper and to open or close bank accounts as necessary for the general fund, enterprise funds, and proprietary funds of said town consistent with any investment policy adopted by the town. All right, the second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. A motion would be in order to authorize the town treasurer of said town with the consent and approval of town council to issue refunding bonds in order to refund all or part of any public improvement or general obligation bonds that would result in savings to the town. Length of term in said bonds would be the minimum required. The same or lesser in time duration. The terms, details, and conditions of such bonds to be set by a resolution of the town council. Second? Any discussion, comments? All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Motion would be in order to authorize the town treasurer with the consent and approval of the town council by resolution and the Board of Sewer Commissioners pursuant to the Rhode Island General Law 45-12-4.3 to issue notes in anticipation of sewer service charges, such sum or sums of money to an amount which, together with any money borrowed in anticipation of such revenues in any prior fiscal year that remains unpaid, shall not exceed in aggregate 80% of the total amount of those revenues due or expected to be received during the fiscal year as estimated by the town treasurer, or $400,000, which is less, whichever is less. Such funds shall be used for payment of the current liabilities and expenses of the sewer commission for the cost of repairing and operation of such sewage disposal system. Negotiable notes issued pursuant to the authority hereof shall be signed by the town treasurer and countersigned by the first warden of the town council and the chairman of the board of sewer commissioners to loan or loans evidence thereby. All the conditions of said note or notes and the method of sale thereof not fixed herein or by previous of law may be fixed by the town council. If not so fixed, then by the town treasurer. The town treasurer is hereby authorized and empowered with the consent and approval of the town council and the board of the sewer commissioners to renew any such notes from the board of sewer notes from time to time, provided that the period from the date of an original note to the maturity of any note issued to renew the same debt shall not exceed 1 year. Any seconds? Second? Any discussion? Comment? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. A motion would be in order to authorize the town treasurer with the consent and approval of the town council by resolution pursuant to RIGL 45-12-4.3 to issue notes in anticipation of water service charges, such sum or sums of money to an amount which, together with any money borrowed in anticipation of such revenues any prior fiscal year that remains unpaid, shall not exceed in aggregate 80% of the total amount. Those revenues due to expected received during the fiscal year as estimated by the town treasurer, or $200,000, whichever is less. Such funds shall be used for payment of current liabilities and expenses for the cost of repair and operation of such water treatment system. Negotiable notes issued pursuant to the authority hereof shall be signed by the town treasurer and countersigned by the first warden and the town council to loan or loans evidence thereby. All of the conditions of said note or notes and the method of sale thereof not fixed herein or by provisions of law may be fixed by the town council. If not so fixed, then by the town treasurer. The town treasurer is hereby authorized and empowered with the consent and approval of the town council to renew any such notes from time to time, provided that the period from date of an original note to the maturity of any note issued to renew the same debt shall not exceed 1 year. Any seconds? Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. A motion would be in order to authorize the town council pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 23-3-7 to enact such ordinances as they may think proper to protect and to regulate the taking of shellfish and other fish in the Great Salt Pond, to impose penalties, therefore, not exceeding $200 and three months imprisonment for any one offense. Second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The motion would be in order to ratify and confirm the actions of the town council in authorizing over expenditures of certain appropriations which were due to circumstances that could not be anticipated in budget preparations for fiscal year 2022, provided that the over expenditures do not exceed the total budget amount for the fiscal year 2023. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. A motion would be in order to authorize the town council of the town of New Shoreham to expend grant funds applied for and awarded to the town of New Shoreham, and to the extent grant proceeds from the grants exceed the amount budgeted by the town. To authorize the town treasurer with the advice and consent of the town council to expend these excess proceeds for the purposes designated in the grant. Any discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And for any or all other purposes authorized by law, and to transact such other businesses as may legally come before the meeting. Hereof fail not, but have you there this warrant at the time and place therefore said, with your doings thereof. Given under my hand this 20th day, of April 80, 2023, at the town of New Shoreham, Rhode Island, attested by Moon Guinness Town Clerk. Second. All in favor? All opposed? The motion carries. I've lost 2 quarts of water. Can I have a motion to adjourn? A second. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The motion carries.